We've got a few viewers who are watching us from all places. Find a chair and get your water bottle. Tuck the water bottle away. It is time to get your seat. Time to get in your seat and get involved. Time to get in your seat. Our lovely fireside chat is starting. I would love for us to get in our seats so we can start the conversation. And when it is time to ask questions, you will get a talking head. Get your beverages and take a seat. We are gonna get started on time. Order a little food. If you want to eat, you can sit at a table and eat. No, it is not. If you have friends who are in other places, tell them to tap on twitch.tv/Tsehaitu to live stream. Grab your beverage, come have a seat. You will be, I'm gonna give you one of those soon. I'm gonna give you one soon. I got you, baby girl. I got you. Get your seat, get your beverage, order your food, grab your folder. You all have a pen to take notes if you need to. There are 2 bathrooms, one to the left, one to the right. If you have friends in foreign places, tell them to tap into the Twitch. Get on in it, because we gonna get started. Yes. Our guest speakers can sit wherever they want, as long as it's inside on a tall table. Bring your beverage. Come on down. Bring them all. Come on down. Grab a seat, put your beverage right there in the middle, and get settled in. If you have friends that are in foreign places, tell them to tap in to the twitch.tv. You have a folder, you have a pen to take notes. Let's get it started. Get it filled in and get the conversation going. If you need to use the bathroom, go ahead. Feel free. If you don't have a beverage, I encourage you to get one. And if you're looking good, keep feeling good.
That's hilarious. I got it. That's hilarious. Oh, really? Y'all got your own on this.
We're going to get it going. We're going to start asking these questions and engaging and getting to know each other. We're going to get this political education going. Make sure you network and you get all the contacts from your friends. And if you have friends and family that are in foreign places, tell them to tap into the live stream. I'm sitting right here in this corner. You want me to take this for you? We got it on that thing. Get comfortable. Make sure you exchange phone numbers as well. Every person in this room is important. Everyone in the room is important. All right, let's get in the mix. And if you are a mother, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. DJ Lextasy, let's let them know we're getting started. We're at the club. We're at the Education Political Club, where we turn it up every day. Let's get it started, y'all. We all have our beverages. We're all here. We're all comfy. Do we all know each other? Do we all exchange phone numbers? There are people in France, the UK, New Zealand, and Hawaii all tapped in. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but yeah. We got people. They're in Cambodia. They're watching. Tap in. If you have friends and family, please tap in. Get settled. Turn your phones off. We're going to have a wonderful conversation. Also, this conversation is going to be live streamed, so we have the content. This will be recorded, and you can also take notes. All right, so we're all here. We're all here. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all to our speakers. My name is Tsehaitu Abye. Welcome to the Fireside Chat. I know almost everyone in this room, and so I'm really grateful that you are all here. I just want to say this was inspired by some organizing work that I did this past year. and where I learned that a lot of us folks are busy working, paying our bills, taking care of our families, just taking care of our responsibilities, and we don't often have the time to come together and support each other. And so I just want to say thank you all for supporting me, first of all. Thank you so much. And then second, I want to say thank you for supporting this restaurant, this business, Dahlak restaurant. Thank you. And thank you for showing up for this time here, bringing your energy. And of course, thank you to our speakers for their time and their energy and everything that they're going to offer here. This moment lives on forever, right? This is political education, this is engaging, this is networking. All of you all do wonderful things in this city. This is a mixture of subject matter experts and our elected officials. I respect all of you and all the work that you do, and I respect everyone here and all your work that you do. And we don't always know what we do. And perhaps if we know a little bit more about what we do, we can understand each other and maybe we can work together. So the theme of today is participation to power. I pretty much know everybody in this room participates, and I'm pretty sure we all have power, but I know a lot of our friends and our family and our community may not, right? So this is a space to invigorate, to remind ourselves, to share out, and to inspire. And I also want to say Happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers. Woo! I recognize that, and so thank you for showing up, because some of us need to be with our moms right now. So I did my quick little introduction, that's all I'm going to say. I'm also going to say that after the event, there's a survey on the website that you could just share some feedback. I want to improve this. This is the first of many Fireside Chats, and the goal is to bring other people in this room in the future, so please put your feedback there. Everyone has a folder here, so all the questions that we're asking, they have the questions, right? They can take notes. This is all being recorded as well. I see all of you all as valuable educators here. And so this is an opportunity for you all to educate us and inspire us and to kind of open us up to a little bit more about the work that you do. And then also for those who are going to see this later on, this is a class. Yeah? So I'm going to give you all 2 minutes. I'm going to joke with you a little bit. Okay. I know all four of y'all know how to talk real well. So let's say like 2 minutes for our introduction, because all of these questions are going to allow you all to share about yourselves. Yeah? So I said who I am. I'm just going, we all have one mic, and I intentionally did this, so you all are going to share the mic. Yep, so you got your mic. Introduce yourself, pass the mic on, and we are in it.
Hello. Hi, there you go. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Tsehaitu, for bringing us together for this important conversation. My name is Krajewski. I am currently serving as the state representative for the 188th Legislative District, which is right here in West and Southwest Philadelphia. My district office is literally two doors down. So we are in my community, in my neighborhood. Grateful to be here with colleagues in city and state and other leaders to talk about how to get our communities more involved in politics. As someone who got politically involved, later in my young adult life, this conversation is important to me because I don't think it's ever too late to get engaged in politics. So looking forward to sharing insights and experience.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am State Representative Jordan Harris. I represent the 186th district, which is right next door to Rick's district. I have parts of South and Southwest, so that's Point Breeze, Grays Ferry, parts of King Sessing, and parts of Graduate Hospital that are in my district. I've been serving in the legislature for 14 years, and I also serve as the majority chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, which is a member of the leadership team in the Democratic Party, in the House on the Democratic side. And my responsibility is really around negotiating and being part of the state budget process, as well as monitoring the budget and all of the things that we do with regards to how we push out state resources throughout the Commonwealth. I've been in leadership in the House for 8 years. 8 of the 14 I've been in leadership. For the last 4, it's been as the Appropriations Chair. And glad to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this delighted panel. My name is Rishaun A. Hall. I am a third-generation Philadelphian. I am also the president of Young Involved Philadelphia. We are the largest organization focused on civic advocacy and civic education for young people in the city of Philadelphia. We boast proudly 7,000 members. up and across Philadelphia and the region. And in my day job, I work at a very local think tank that's been in Philadelphia for about 75 years. So I'm really happy to be here and talk to you all about the policy side, the implementation side, and also the advocacy side of what, all of these three great leaders do every day.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rue Landau. I'm a councilperson, represent the city at large, meaning I represent everybody. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for including me. I am a civil rights and housing lawyer by training. I started community legal services. I ran the city's Commission on Human Relations and Fair Housing Commission. I've been deep in this work for a long time, and it's been so wonderful. It's my first term on city council. I've been doing a lot. It's been feeling good. We'll be talking more about that. And really looking forward to this conversation. We all need to pause more often to do this, to make sure that we are just like kind of quietly connecting with folks and making sure we're talking about participation, because we don't do what we do without all of you. In fact, it is you who are the ones with the ideas and the movement and the momentum, and we are just your voice pieces. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh, and I'm a first openly LGBTQ council person. Super proud of that. I am the first. I will absolutely not be the last. Can't wait for the next person. Thank you.
Thank you. See, they do a really good job at introducing themselves.
We were scared of you. No, just kidding.
I'm scared of y'all. Y'all did a wonderful job. All right, I'm just here to bring y'all together. All right, so we're getting into the first question. I also just want to selfishly say, I really wanted to hear all of you answer every question, but we would be here for decades. So this is my version of a fireside chat where we all answer all the questions. And so whatever feels most passionate to you, of course, please share. I will just name that this first question is everything to me. The pressure.
I guess it's my turn.
So as a leader, how do you find to connect with people who align with your vision and mission?
That's a really good question. And if for folks who may not know, I'm the only non-elected on this panel, right? So some people are like, why is he here? Well, I've been doing this work for 14 years. I started working in and around the government space when I was 14 years old under the former Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, traveling with him every day, seeing, local government is the most effective form of politics. And the reason why is because you can see your mayor at the grocery store talking to a little old lady. That same day, he could be in a situation room when there's a snowstorm. That same day, he's also potentially at a disaster trying to figure out, how do I get my city forward? He helps manage budgets and all these different things. And I said, listen, man, I don't know how I get to do what you do, but what you do is cool, right? So, being in this space for so long, and obviously being, where I sit at and in this space, a lot of people my age are disinvested in our government because they see all the federal noise, they see all the state noise, they see all the stuff, and they say, well, my government doesn't care about me. That's not true, right? And so a lot of my work, truthfully, there's obviously people who believe in government that I'm happy to connect with, but I love to spend my time talking to people who just want to pontificate the problem. Because a lot of times that's the first step to figuring out, all right, how do we get to a solution? You're telling me you don't go vote because people don't come to your neighborhood? Well, who is the person not coming to your neighborhood? Let me connect you to that person, and then we can figure out, how we get to a happy medium. And I feel like I would do that work all day if I could, right? But at the end of the day, it takes a lot to really bring people back to the space that we all want them. And we want Philadelphia to be an engaged, local community that shows up, makes noise at the people's house, right? Travels up to Harrisburg and talks to his leaders right up there. And that's a part of my job, and I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Rishaun. I was fortunate to moderate an event that Rishaun was putting on, and I was just impressed with all the young people in the room. And all those young people were very eager for information and for connection, and that was just dope for me. Like, you literally are doing it. And they were interested and looking for connections. And I'm just transparent. I'm older than Rishaun.
Oh, he's saying that, my guy.
No, the event she's talking about, Young Involved Philadelphia partnered with the World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia, and we put Young Involved Philadelphia on the global stage. We had about 140 young people from around the world to come out and learn about local civics. So I know it sounds boring, but I promise you it's not.
No, it's a vibe. I just want to shout, like, the folks that are here are very intentional. Like, there's a reason why everyone is here. So if you're wondering why the guy in the middle here was here, he's an amazing leader, and he's also in all the different scenes as well. Not just, yeah. All right, next question. When did you first realize that local government decisions could shape everyday life? Up to anybody.
I guess I got it. So this is actually a great question for me to answer because it actually was a lot of why I decided to run for state representative. So before I ran for state rep, I was an organizer in the city, particularly working on ending mass incarceration in the city, right? Folks know that we have this specter of mass incarceration and over-policing our communities. And so I got involved in a lot of local elections in 2017. I did a lot of work to get Larry Krasner elected as district attorney as a volunteer, but also a field organizer in his election campaign. Then I moved on to working on getting better judges elected because, right, the other side of that equation, it's the DA, but then it's also the judge that then, hands down the final sentence. And so we built a coalition of community organizations that came together to actually pull off a community forum where we had judicial candidates come in 2019 to ask a bunch of questions to those candidates, then put out endorsements for those candidates. And basically what I realized was, okay, we can get better prosecutors elected, we can get better judges elected, but they don't make laws, right? Like they don't actually make the laws of our sentencing code. And I was like, well, where does that code get made? Oh, it's this place called Harrisburg, right? And it's the Pennsylvania Code, and these are the things that actually codify and govern our criminal justice system. And so, if I wanted to have a voice in shaping what that system looked like, I needed to be at the table. So, realizing, through getting involved in local elections and honestly starting to develop my analysis of like, well, what does the DA actually have power and authority over? What do the courts have power and authority over? What do state legislators, what does city council have power over? Allowed me to have an analysis where I could realize, oh, if I'm trying to make change, this is where I have to go next. And so I think understanding the local is critical because if you don't have that local context, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like if you don't have the starting base of, well, you do this, but you don't do that, then you can't actually expand that out to thinking about state level politics, federal, et cetera. So.
Broke it down, masterclass. All right, so third question. Why do you think so many people feel disconnected from politics, even though politics affects almost everything in our lives? And we're kind of already answering this. So, yeah.
So I think it's by design. I think it is easier for people to be disengaged than for them to be engaged and involved. The more you're disengaged, the more folks can just go off and do whatever they want. I often hear people say, government doesn't listen to people. It does, it just doesn't listen to you. And I want you to understand what I'm saying. It's listening to somebody. It's just not you. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why isn't your voice the one that's loud and that is valued in the political space? When you understand that, I think what we begin to see is that, and not just in America, but across the world, you are seeing people raising their voice in a different way than they've ever done before. And you see that the government structure is responding to the folks who are actually organizing and raising their voice. And so, I think a lot of people are disengaged by design. I think a lot of people are uneducated on the political process by design. I think there is a fundamental dumbing down of America when it comes to its politics. How can you fight for rights that you don't know? So if you don't know the Bill of Rights, you don't fight for them. If you don't know what you are entitled to, you don't ask for it. And so, and I don't want to be political, but I think it's viable to say, I think one of the most diabolical things that I've seen in the political process is that there are rural, poor parts of Pennsylvania that need services the most, and yet they have been convinced by the people that they vote for that those services that they need are not needed. And so you'll go out, Pennsylvania has 67 counties. A lot of people know Philadelphia. They know the 4 counties around us. They know Pittsburgh, maybe a little bit in the middle, Harrisburg, Lancaster area. But most of the state, vast majority of the state is rural and represented by a particular political party that I am not affiliated with. And in those places, they have been convinced that universal child care, high quality education, a lot of the social service things that we provide are bad. And yet they are the highest users of those things. Right? And so I talk about that because I want folks to understand that much of which we are going through is intentional. And that there are those who want folks to be disinvested, disengaged, and uneducated on the process. The moment you get uneducated on the process is the moment you get involved. It's the moment you start knowing what you do. Last thing I'll say, Rick talked about this. A part of the understanding is also understanding the different levels of government and who does what. Can't tell you how many times people come in my office and want to talk about Social Security. I could talk about Social Security all day long, but I'm not a member of Congress. I'm a member of the State House. I don't do Social Security. You can't fight a war if you don't know your enemy, right? Maybe you can fight it, but you won't be successful. Because you got to know who you should be talking to, who you should be engaging. And so this, what I believe, intentional dumbing down of our civics is to disengage people and get them frustrated enough where they sit on the sideline and allow things to happen to them instead of being a part of the process of what is happening.
Yeah, you just, come on now, the Jones. It's like oysters, like, it's amazing. All right, so this kind of is leading into this conversation around participation and power, so thank you for bringing us here. Rue, what is the difference between participation and power?
Good one. I know. There's a lot of tough questions coming, I think. I'm going to try to figure out how to tell this story and also tell my political origin story at the same time, because I think these are all very important. Some of the difference between participation and power is also when you're sitting back and watching folks in power who don't represent your interests make decisions for you, or there's action and inaction when they are not making decisions for you. And, I have watched through the years how we've built on LGBTQ rights here in Philadelphia. Still today, it's 2026, we do not have federal anti-discrimination protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity. We don't have them at the state level explicitly in the way in which we should. But in Philadelphia, because of organized, active community members, we have those rights, and we've built on those rights. And so from sexual orientation being included in our Fair Practices Ordinance in 1982, to gender identity getting included in 2002, then to watch city government employees get benefits for spouses, but you could not for your domestic partner because your life partner, because marriage wasn't legal. We had a fight for a life partnership here in Philadelphia. And back then, these things were not pretty. They were ugly. It was very hard for the city council people who stood up to fight for these issues. And we had some of these fights happening out in Harrisburg as well, out in our state house. Very vicious, very ugly. And we've heard the stories also that were happening behind the scenes. So to me, participation versus power is we don't have a choice. If we want our rights, if we want to tell our history and not have it whitewashed and erased by the federal government, if we want to make sure that we are still being anti-racist in our teaching and lifting up all of our communities and investing where we should, we must participate. And when you participate, that is the power. So it is not looking up on some, half-demolished White House on a hill. It is literally us and the people. That is the participation, that is power, and those two things are co-equal, and it's really the people.
Wow, That was a trick question.
Did I pass?
Yes. A++. Because we just need to participate. Yeah, yes. That's the first step. Show up. All right, so how can everyday people build power even if they do not have $1 million, a title, or political connections?
Well, I don't have $1 million. I mean,
But you got political connections.
sure. I think though, it's rooms like this. It's people like you, right? Who really build the spaces. Because one thing that I pride myself on is obviously I'm a subject matter expert on economic mobility and workforce development from the youth perspective, but more so outside of all of that, I'm a convener, right? I enjoy bringing people together that want to learn more about a topic. The through line of this whole session so far is understanding what civics is and how do we engage in civics. I'm happy to let y'all know that under my leadership through Young Evolve Philadelphia, we are creating a program called the Public Servant Learning Series. And what that does, it's going to be a cohorted session that's going to teach folks about municipal finance, right? How to run for public office, policy implementation, research, how to levy lobbyists as interest groups, right? Because all the things that we should be learning in school, right? I have people that call me all the time. I have this problem. I was on the phone before I came here. Folks were like, oh, PPA, right? Where's the money at the school district? We're on the phone trying to figure out, well, they get $40 million, right? What's the distribution to the school district? Hell, I don't know, right? So I'm trying to figure out, I'm driving, kind of breaking the law, I'm sorry, right? But where's the money going, right? So all of these things, I say this because this is something that we should be learned in school, and it takes nonprofits, it takes electeds, it takes the community to infuse it back into, what we're doing. And I'm happy to be at the forefront of that, elected or not.
Rishaun, you got so hyped that I was like, turn the volume down.
It's your fault.
I was like, I think we burning our ears. That's what I was doing just now. Is it too loud? Is it okay? Okay, cool. I was just making sure. I'm okay, but I was okay. Just making sure. Okay, great. All right. Next question. Okay, so what does real community power look like in Philadelphia right now? So again, what does real community power look like in Philadelphia right now? To you, this is opinion. Whoever wants to, this is for, yeah.
I'll start with 2 words. Ice out. I know our state colleagues stand arm in arm with us on this issue. They just have a more difficult battleground than we do here in Philadelphia. But I was so happy to partner with my colleague, Minority Leader Kendra Brooks, on a package of 7 bills telling ICE, get out of Philly. But when you're here, because we know they'll be here, how they need to act, how they need to we need to protect our communities, adding real safety to our communities, and making sure that we are all standing arm in arm with our immigrant communities. So to me, that's just the simple answer. I'll pass it down again, but the real answer, it's a huge win for us in Philadelphia. It is putting us, we have some of the strongest laws in the country right now. And just 2 days ago, the mayor signed 6 out of 7 bills. So they are all law, but she signed 6 out of 7 because it is clear as day. Philadelphia is speaking in one voice on this. ICE out of Philadelphia.
Well, frankly, I think just building off of what Rue mentioned, that, but also the Safe Healthy Homes package that passed that same day by Councilmember O'Rourke, and I think why those stand out to me as real testament to community power is those are direct results of people's experiences, right? So the experience of our neighbors, our immigrant neighbors, feeling like they cannot live in safety in our neighborhoods. The experiences of our renters and our homeowners who have to deal with dwellings that are not safe, that are not healthy, that we know we all live in, right? We all live in neighborhoods where we have homes that are neglected, that are not invested in, and it is the responsibility of government to take a leading role in protecting our neighbors, protecting our renters. And so these are important examples of community power making government work for them.
Yes.
But why I also think it's important, and I think this is particularly important around the ICE out legislation, because there are going to be a lot of naysayers that were like, well, like, what can the city really do against the federal government or against Trump? And look at what he's doing anyway, blah, blah, blah. But what I think is so important about this political moment, and particularly when it comes to the issue of immigration, is that you have to understand we are not just organizing around policy and politics. We are organizing around culture.
That's right.
And we're organizing around like redirecting the culture of our city, our state, and our country, and saying, no, this is a city where immigrants belong.
Yeah.
And we are going to show that by having government make a statement, even if it gets thrown out of court, even if Trump says, screw it all, and rains hell, we have a responsibility to show up. When we have a voice, when we have any position of power, we have a responsibility to show up and shape narrative. And so that is why even if we put stuff on the state level, and it's just messaging bills, that matters because people see that. People see that, they respond to it, and our neighbors need to see it, right? To feel hopeful, to feel safe, to feel like we care about them. So it's about political power, it's about policy, but it's also about shaping narrative and culture.
Just that is exactly right. That is absolutely fantastic. And safe and healthy homes was a huge win too. Just want to make sure everybody knows that both Ice Out and Safe and Healthy Homes were absolutely brought to us by the community. These were community-led campaigns. They were the ones who were doing everything from the drafting on. They pushed us, they lobbied. These are community bills, and that is extremely important.
Thanks. Community really grinding. Thank you for that. This next question is from my guy right there. What does the city budget actually impact everyday life? How, does the city budget actually impact everyday life? And how can youth get involved in the budget process?
Sure. So I don't do the city budget, so I can talk about the state budget. I mean, I can talk a little bit about the city budget because I know it. But so the way it works, the city is more of the folks that do. The state and the federal are more of the folks that pay for it. And so when you look at a lot of programming that folks want to see, a lot of times they come to the state, but we don't actually do it, we actually fund it. So for example, Department of Human Services, there are two. There's a Department of Human Services at the state level, there's a Department of Human Services at the city level. City budget, a large portion of their budget goes to the Department of Human Services, but a lion's share of it actually comes from the state, from DHS. We also, at the state level, we do a lot of the licensing of facilities and whatnot, but the actual work, so if a child is in danger, you wouldn't be calling the state, it would be the city's DHS that is actually doing the work. Reunification of families, foster care, adoption, all of those kinds of things. The city's DHS would actually be physically doing the work, but a lot of that work is also funded at the state level. Department of Education, teachers and whatnot, those are all school district employees, and the work at the school district level, which is the local government akin to the city, but a lion's share of the resources actually come from the state level. So when you look at how the budgets work, the city is more of the workers and actually the folks who go out and do, and the state is the one who pays for it. So when you think about a lot of the issues that you have and who you should go to, you're probably going to have to go to your city folks first, and then they actually come to the state for the resources to actually implement what they're doing. For contrast, the city's budget is about 6 to 7 billion, right? Whereas the budget that we sent over to the Senate on April 14th is about 53.3 billion, right? And so when you look at those numbers, it's clear as a big difference. But our budget is the one that's going to fund most of education at the state level. Our budget is the one that's going to fund most of the things that touch people: healthcare, senior centers, home care workers, folks with intellectual disabilities. All of that stuff is going to be the state level. A lot of, when you look out, you see roads, bridges, highways. A lot of that money is going to come from the state. So that is the intersection. And then when you add the federal level on top of that, the federal government's budget is in the trillions of dollars. And a lot of what we do at the state level, a big portion of that is from the feds. So for example, I just said state budget is about 53.3 billion, but we probably get another, on top of that, another 80, 90, maybe even 100 billion from the feds as pass through to help administer other programs. One would be SNAP, food stamps. We administer food stamps at the state level, but the money actually comes from the federal government. We spend about $350 million every month, $350 million every month just on food stamps. So it is really an understanding of who's doing the work and who's funding the work that is necessary to actually attack some of the problems that we see in our community.
Thank you,
I
masterclass.
do the boring stuff. I do the,
I'm into it.
I do the, it's not the jumping and shouting that I do every day. I watch the numbers every single day. Okay, the money. I get to see the money every day.
Money's not boring.
No, it's fascinating. I think the young kids really want to hear about the money.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm going to kind of combine the part of that last question. If a youth wanted to advocate for more resources in their neighborhood, city, state, what is the process?
So here's an interesting thing. I think a lot of times folks think it's harder than it actually is to communicate, particularly with your state and your city officials. You know, I tell people all the time, if you can follow Beyonce on Instagram, you can follow your local elected official. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, I remember, so when Bad Bunny got picked to do the halftime show, I went on his Instagram and I saw I'm like, how many million followers can one person have that doesn't post that often? And then, you know, here I am, I'm posting like every 6 hours, trying to get my, and I joke, but I'm gonna be very, very serious about that. You know, Rick and I sit in rooms all the time where when we're debating or discussing things, people are talking about how many, you know, DMs they got on Instagram. People are talking about how many emails they got from their constituents. You know, I can't vote for that because I got 100 emails from people, or I can't do, because the theory is if 100 people took the time to actually email me, then there's probably 1,000 people who are actually concerned about it. And a lot of times I think we don't really, we think that, you know, we hold these positions and folks don't really see us as somebody you can reach out to. I live in there, but I live in Grays Ferry, you know what I mean? I go to the supermarket at the Fresh Grocer on Grays Ferry Avenue. That's where I live. And when I go to the supermarket, I run into people that live in my community all the time. You know, when I go to my neighborhood, I ain't gonna tell you where I go because some people might say, but when I wanna have a drink, I wanna relax, I go to certain places. And you know what I mean? Honestly, you can see me in church on Sunday. Sometimes you might see me having a drink on Friday. It depends on what I'm doing that week. But the bottom line is, you know, all of us, right, as electeds, particularly on this level of government, are extremely accessible. Here's what I tell people all the time. You know, if you want to be involved, you want to be engaged, first step is following your elected officials on social media. All of us have Instagram, Facebook. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I still have an account, but I don't use it. But Instagram, Facebook for sure. I have a TikTok. I don't know if they do. I got 50,000 followers on TikTok. I'm kind of popping on TikTok. But anyway, that's 50,000, almost 30,000 on Instagram. But no, seriously, you should be following your elected officials because you can engage with them there, as well as we all, I know for a fact, all use these social media platforms to push out information that is extremely valuable. You talking about how do you get in contact about resources? Well, if you go on my page, the House Appropriations Committee has a page as well. We share all of the grant information. Any grant that's coming out, we're going to post it on our social media platform. You can engage and you can reach out. All of our email addresses, all of our office phone numbers. My email address that's on my Instagram is my email address. So if you email that, it's going to pop up on this phone. right? We're not as detached as some people believe, but you have to start by making the connection. Now, here's the last part to that. If you make enough connections and people don't respond, well, we come up for re-election every 2 years.
Yeah.
They come up for re-election every 4 years. That's when you have your voice and your pleasure or displeasure for whether your elected officials are responsive to you, right? And so it's, I promise you, when we're in the room and we're making decisions, people are talking about how many emails they got, how many phone calls they got to their office, how many messages they got, because folks are very concerned about what the folks are thinking in their neighborhoods. But you have to let your voice be heard. Social media, emails, calls to the office are 100% still valuable ways in connecting with your elected officials.
And can I just expound on that really quickly? Like real quickly from the youth perspective, young electeds are getting younger. And I think that's something that's really, when I know my council member, hey, come on, brother.
I feel like you was talking
Never.
I was 27 when I got elected.
I remember when you got elected. Listen, this man came to speak when I was the president of the Philadelphia Youth Commission, and he was a young state rep, and now he's seasoned leadership, all that stuff. Seasoned. But no, all jokes aside, right? This, our council member here, right? When they have public session every Thursday, right? Part of my day job, I have to go there every Thursday and talk to these folks, talk to their staff. If there's a big legislation, I can guarantee you that about 60% of that room is young people who say, listen, I saw this on TikTok. I saw this on Instagram. I'm here to say, as a high school student, as a college student, as a new resident, as a returning resident in Philadelphia, that I don't like this. And I'll tell you one thing, one of my good friends, Joe Ardon, is the youngest elected mayor in the state of Pennsylvania. Mayor Mamdani, young mayor. We have young council members. We have young state reps. Young people are showing up.
Yeah, they are.
So don't get it twisted. Granted, people, obviously you're going to have a wide variety of people who want to serve an elected office. But even if they don't teach this in schools, young people are finding the information. And it's people like me who are trying to feed those young people so we can have that next generation of Mamdanis, of other people in this city and around the state.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, echo all of that. And I think I wanted to go back a little bit to what you were saying about, participation versus power. Yeah. Because I think the thing that's important too, right, is, like Jordan said, we're accessible. We respond to our emails. If you come, you ask for a meeting, we will meet with you. And we will be transparent about, how do you apply for a grant? What is this grant? Tell me about this. What is this policy? How do you make laws? But then there's a step that we then require, which is that you now have to take that information and organize around it, right? And I think that's a piece that sometimes people get a little confused about around access, because they'll come to me and Jordan and be like, hey, can you get me $50,000? Well, I can get you an application and I can walk you through that application and tell you how to organize your nonprofit to apply for grants and do the advocacy, but I can't just write you a check for money. You actually have to work with me and collaborate. And in fact, that is actually better. Yeah. You don't want to just be reliant on your electeds to give you handouts. Yeah. You want us to teach you about the government process and about setting up nonprofits and about the fact, about RACP, right? About these massive grants that frankly a lot of our local orgs don't get access to. And so I think it's important to not just stop at all right, I DM'd Jordan, or we had this meeting and I did this thing. It's how do you actually use that opportunity to get information and knowledge and then to organize and build your own power with that knowledge. And I think that's what's also really important when you do engage with elected officials, is not just feeling yourself being reliant on us, right? It should be an exchange of power and resources and relationships. So.
Love it. It's like we're in a jewelry shop. Just all the gems are dropping. All right, so yeah. with the May primary, right? Because we got some call to actions, right? And the governor's race coming later this year, what should people understand about the importance of local and state elections? One answer, because we got 8 more questions to get through, Joe.
So this is gonna be a little controversial. What I'm gonna say.
I love it.
Come on, drop it.
So I will say this. Some folks I do get frustrated, when folks say I'm running for office because I'm not a politician. I'm gonna tell you that frustrates me. I'm gonna tell you why. Nobody ever goes to the doctor and say I want to see the guy that didn't go to medical school.
Yeah.
Seriously. I understand the sentiments, but I want folks to be very clear. My undergrad is in government. It is people call it political science for a reason. It is a science. It is easy to make promises. It is easy to make declarations, but it is hard to connect the promise to the people's reality. And oftentimes, far too often, we elect folks who say with their mouth that they know in their head that they should believe in their heart, but they don't. And not only that, they'll say things that sound great, that they, one, know they can't get done, or two, don't have the skills to get done. It is a science to being able, because when you talk about power, okay, when you talk about power, I have to go, Rick has to go, I have to go to Harrisburg, because folks believe that because you think it's a good idea, that everybody thinks it's a good idea. They do not. And not only do they not think it's a good idea, there are different parts of the state that have different value systems, that have different moral compasses, and that have different priorities for themselves. And so what we are tasked to do is to go into a room with folks who may not look like us, who may not be from our communities, who might not share the same values and views that we share, and we're going in there to pull out a victory and utilize our power against what they want. Okay? And I want folks to be very, politics is a contact sport. It don't just happen because you think it's a good idea. It happens because you create leverage, because you organize, and because you have the strength to go in and get it done. In Pennsylvania House, that means 102 votes in the House, that means 26 votes in the Senate, and 1 governor to sign a bill. Everything else is just bullshit and talk.
Talk about it.
And I want folks to understand it, because we gotta stop electing folks who talk a good game, but who cannot get it done, or who don't have a system or a track record of doing these things. Now, I'm not telling you to vote for it. Vote for whatever the heck you want to vote for.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people get frustrated because we have a lot of folks who say what they know is popular, but they have no pathway of getting it done, right? Rick and I have worked on a lot of the criminal justice stuff. It's easy for us to talk about it, right? But we actually have to go and fight folks who want to lock people up. Like, let me be very clear. When we go to Harrisburg, everybody ain't talking about second chances. Everybody don't think it's a great idea and all this other stuff. No, there's a contingency of folks that says no. Not only is there a contingency of folks that believe it, there's a contingency of folks who benefit from our incarceration. Think about it this way. Most of the prisons are in most parts of rural Pennsylvania. There's a reason why, because it's the #1 industry in many of those places. When you think about that, look at it. Pennsylvania has 25, 26 correctional facilities. They are the large industry in that area. So when you talk about decarcerating Pennsylvania, when you talk about lowering the folks who are in prison, you're talking about laying those folks off. And so when their elected officials come to the Capitol, they're not in favor of it. Why? Because their constituents will be out of work. I'm not saying they bad people. I'm not saying they, no. Hear me out. That's not my job to, but what I need is to know is I have to understand their perspective. We can, the judging on who they are and the morality is from a pastor. My job is to understand where they are so that I can get a victory. Right? I work with people every day. I don't have to like them. I don't have to love them, but I do have to win for you. And we got to start electing people that we know have the skill set, the temperament, and the ability to go into the lion's den and pull out victories for people. For me, everything else is just talk. We got to win. People can't afford for us not to win anymore. People are literally dying. Our democracy, somebody said that our democracy is in the ICU. We have to win.
And for me, I'm not willing to just sit there and tell you something that sounds good. We actually got to go suit up and get on the battlefield and bring home victories.
All right, Jordan, Fireside Chats.
And for the record, right? For the record, again, where I sit is on the outside looking in, and there's a huge problem, right, in the state of Pennsylvania, like especially when it comes on the Philadelphia side. Because if y'all don't know, Philadelphia makes up about 41% of the state's GDP on 5% of land. So when you think about your council people advocate for you, your state reps, like both of them are here, right? They advocate for you, but there's a group of people who will just choose to do not for not's sake. So obviously, we all mainly vote blue in Philadelphia, right? The problem isn't Philadelphia. The problem is the middle of the ground. So it's like, all right, how do we think about, how do we address the folks that we can't change, right, who are in those Senate seats? Because your House has voted for a higher minimum wage. Your council has passed resolutions for a higher minimum wage, right? That's all fine and well, but there is a group of people that are saying no simply for no. And I'm not telling y'all to move out of Philadelphia and go to those places and advocate that way, but that is the contextual problem that plagues Philadelphia. So when you think about how you activate, when you think about, just know you can fight the good fight, but there's a problem out there, and we are trying very hard to figure out how to fix it.
Okay, got it. Also, real quick. Because I think the thing that Jordan is speaking to is frankly why, even though there are sometimes I go up to the Capitol, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here, right? But in many ways, I feel grateful because I do feel like Pennsylvania and the things we have to navigate in this state are a microcosm of the challenges of this country. Because you have urban, you have rural, you have suburban. And here's the thing, going back to what Jordan said is, you can demonize the party, but we have to understand the people. And when you go out into some of these rural communities, right, to really break down what we've been talking about, the truth is those people have real grievances that are not that different from ours. They have been divested from. They have housing that has not been maintained. They have had their manufacturing economy carved out and shipped overseas, and now all that's there are prisons and coal mines, right? And this is the reality that they have been given, and then they've been told this false lie about their suffering, that apparently it's because of immigrants in Philadelphia and trans people don't know how, considering they're not in your community, but somehow these are the people that are the cause of their suffering. And the truth is that we actually have a responsibility to interject and to change those hearts and minds. Because one, that's how we get the win, right? That's how we get school funding. That's how we get transit funding. Like, we actually have to build cross geographic solidarity. But two, like, that's also how we change the country, because as you said, it's 5% of the land. That means 95% of the land is theirs, right? And so they are, in fact, the majority. And so we actually do have to come up with a cross-racial, like, working class narrative that speaks to everybody about the fact that your life is not working. And there's a change that we can actually push forward to do that. So
Yes, to all that. And for our national elections, as we do watch our democracy in the ICU, and we are watching our rights slip away in front of our eyes, including in ways that we couldn't have imagined, because nobody in the federal government is following the law, and including our Supreme Court. It's very important that we also check ourselves and realize what happened in our last national election and how many people, even in Philadelphia, did not vote. They did not vote because of the Democratic candidate might not have agreed. You might not have agreed with her on one issue, or you weren't so sure about her on one thing. That is absolutely the wrong way to go. We have got to realize that not any one of us is perfect. Not any one candidate is going to be 100% of what you need, but there is good and there is evil, and in this case, evil won. And our lives will be so much better when good wins And we can imagine what our lives would be like now, what we'd be building upon had good won. So keep that in mind when you're talking to your neighbors. I had a lot of those conversations. That happens right here in Philadelphia. That happens around the state, and that's certainly happening around the country.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there should be people knocking on doors right now, canvassing. Or there's people running those operations. Yes. And just, I'm not here to really share too much of my opinion, but I will say that I got to knock doors out in Pittsburgh a couple years ago, and it was a traumatizing experience. And everything y'all said was accurate. And talking to people who live in rural areas who hate my guts, but are struggling far worse than I. It was an odd experience. It was an odd, and it showed me the reality of the country that we live in. Because there's definitely a true privilege of being in Philadelphia around so many people of color, black people. Like, you feel grounded, but the second you leave, it's a rude boy awakening. Rude boy. And I also want to name, I sit and often think about our electeds who are up in spaces where most of the people don't want us to exist. And so that's your opposition. And so I try to sit in those in those shoes to try to imagine. I can't imagine because I avoid those spaces. But I see that, and I see y'all. You know, and I know that this state does not want us to exist. And so for y'all to defend us and show up for us and do that work every day when people don't want y'all to exist, like, shout out to y'all. I see that, I know that. Thank you. And it's more than just your 9 to 5. Yeah, Saturday. So thank you. Thank you. All right, so I want to just acknowledge it's 2:04. We've got 30 more minutes of asking questions, and then the audience will have some questions that they can ask. If you all don't have questions to ask at 2:30, we're going to get up and dance and vibe and connect and make sure we share information with everyone here. So I just want to know that. But all the questions are on the sheet, and so if you have other questions, get them prepared. You will be able to ask each one of these folks 2 questions, 2 talking heads. All right, so I'm going to keep getting into it. And since we have about 5 or so more questions, we've got about 6 more questions. I think we have time. All right. This one matters a lot to me. What are some opportunities for greater solidarity between Black American communities and Black immigrant communities and the larger Philadelphia community? I specifically put this question here, and I'm not here to answer the question. Because I'm Black American, I'm Ethiopian American, and I'm also in community with many folks in Philadelphia, and I care about us coming together, working together, getting things done. So I'm curious from the folks that are up here who work with diverse people all the time, people who look different from you all the time. I want to know what y'all think.
So I just have 3 quick points. I'm gonna pass the mic to anybody. If anybody tells you that I'm a technocrat by trade, right? If anybody ever tells you we're a majority minority city, that makes no sense, right? Philadelphia is a minority ran city. We are officially an African American city. So there is no such thing as a minority majority. Those 2 words make no sense. Anyway, but what I will say to you all is that we've operated segmentally for decades, right? And I am so happy that I am allowed to sit like in places like my day job or, you know, the Young Evolve Philadelphia, which I serve, and I bring communities together. Because believe it or not, like the same event we're having here, right? LULAC, which is usually ran, right, by like, you know, Hispanics is having the same sort of event with the same sort of stakeholders, right? And sometimes there's a whole lot of, these are my people, I need to protect my people, I need to protect my tribe, because there's a little bit of trust sometimes that has to be rebuilt from seeing, like, you know, in lower, like sometimes lower socioeconomic neighborhoods in North Philly and West Philly, that they're seeing, and other folks that aren't African American, is that, they're pontificating or appropriating the community, when in reality, some of these folks that look like you have the same problems, right, from sort of geographical areas, and are just trying to feed their family, right? So when we strip all that nonsense away and say, we're trying to all make a living. We're all trying to benefit each other. You feed me sandwiches, right? You feed my neighborhood produce, right? My passion is food insecurity, right? Some of my friends have taken Uber to go to the grocery store just to get food taken away from their bottom line and total cost when they check out at the register, right? So there's days, again, y'all don't really know me like that, and I truly understand, but I'm in there fighting with folks every other day trying to figure out where's the data that we can just map where the grocery store is at in Philadelphia so we can figure out who don't have what, right? You know, so I tell you now, that's really what it is. Like, white people, I love mixed neighborhood communities, right? I was just with my homie Jordan Rogers, right, who's a lobbyist in the city of Philadelphia. Yeah, yo, I love Jordan, right? I've never been to his block before. It's old white ladies on the block saying hi to him, right? It's black people on the block. It's Hispanics on the block. They walking their dogs. I'm sitting here. Now, mind you, his neighborhood not perfect. They got vacant lots, right, on his block. But I'm sitting there like, damn, this is what a neighborhood's supposed to look like. How do we get more neighborhoods to look? Everybody was nice. And I'm like, Jesus, even the old lady was nice. Like, come on, like, that's Philadelphia. That's my city that I love, and these people love, because you voted for them. You ain't vote for me. I ain't no elected official, right? But still, like, that's truly what it is, and I know that was more than 3 points, so I've claimed it.
Yeah, so in Southwest, we're doing a project right now on Chester Avenue called Africa Town, which I'm very, very proud of. We're probably about 19, maybe $20 million in investments into Africa Town. The development is happening right now at the corner of 54th and Chester. You got community centers going to be built there, 100 units of housing. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I think that the grocery store is now under control to redo that grocery store right there on the corner. And so like that whole 2-block radius is going to be the start of a whole community that is welcoming to our brothers and sisters from the continent. But we got to also understand that that grocery store is going to be used by everybody. The affordable housing is going to be used by everybody. All of the different shops are going to be used by everybody. And, you know, I think more of those projects coming to our neighborhoods are helpful. I think the other thing is we have to understand that when you are advocating and when you are organizing, there is power in numbers, and that, you know, the more that folks are allowed to divide us, the better it is for them. And that it is a strategy to keep us divided, right? And a lot of times we fall into that strategy and we allow people to win. When you think about the way the power dynamic is a lot of times, and we're seeing it right now in our national government, you know, instead of my brothers and sisters in rural America being concerned about their health care, they've allowed people to make them believe that the reason they don't have is because of someone else. And that is a strategy that has been used for generations, that you don't have because of that person. And they always want to point fingers at that person. And so when we look at our communities, we have to understand that that is what people are trying to do with Black Americans and our African brothers and sisters, to say, okay, you don't have because they're here and they're taking. That's just, first of all, the statistics and the numbers don't bear it out. Second of all, we are more alike than we are different. And third of all, people are doing it so that while we're arguing and bickering, they're taking the resources and they're using it for themselves. And so what we have to do is, for me, I believe building more of these projects that we can all work on collectively is a way to build the trust, because that is a real thing, that there is distrust in certain communities, that we have to work together to get through all of that. And the other thing is, like, there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you're from. Like, I'm from South Philly. I go to North Philly, Northwest all the time, and I'm shouting the P. I don't care. You know, they're like, oh, Northwest, Germantown. I'm from South Philly. And I don't mean I don't love my brothers and sisters from Northwest, right? And that's what folks have to understand. Dr. Cornel West used to say, a love for all people starts with a love for my people. And so for me, I will start with loving my people, and then that love oozes out to everybody else. And there's nothing wrong with that. So building these kind of projects that are going to be beneficial to the whole community, I think is a way of us organizing and bringing people in. Having those community meetings where we're collectively deciding what it is that we want to see.
respecting people's differences, respecting what they might, but coming to the consensus and bringing those things to a community together, I think is how we tear down some of those barriers.
I love that. Thank you. So what does healthy accountability look like in Black urban communities like Philly?
And I bring this word accountability. I know that some people like the word accountability and some people hate it. And this is for folks who are out in the world who are watching this live stream. I've been an accountability coach myself for hundreds of people. And sometimes we think we want it, but we don't want it. Or sometimes when we receive it, we don't know how to respond to it. So let's get into it. What does healthy accountability look like in Black urban communities like Philly?
I think it goes back to, I think what I was saying before about, I think if we're talking about healthy accountability between like community, organization, and electeds, I think it looks like a healthy, accountable relationship that is bi-directional, right? And one where it is not about us kind of being the centers of power and the centers of gravity, but actually saying, what are we gonna do together to build knowledge, to gather resources, and to build power for our communities that have been divested from for a very long time. And I think, there are times where I think accountability can kind of get confused with, penalizing or punishing, and I don't think that's the case, right? When it comes to young people that, aren't voting, right? I think we need to have curiosity about that, not necessarily just like shame or judgment. To me, that's not accountability. Accountability is curiosity about why is it that you don't feel like your values are reflected in your local leadership? What can I do to have that be more reflected in your representation? And to me, that is a healthy, accountable relationship, because accountability isn't about, you're a bad person, you're wrong, you messed up. It's about how do I help you be your best self? And how do I hold you and give you the support necessary to do that? And that does work both ways when it comes to politics, right? I need my community to be engaged, to be aware, to be aligned, for me to be able to be my best version of your representative. And I need you to be able to have the resources, the information, the power, the organization necessary to do that with me. So I think healthy accountability looks like exchange of information, exchange of resources, exchange of support, right? So supporting each other, the electeds, the politics, the organizations, and the community to all be our best selves.
Shout out. I'm getting a lot of self-love. I'm getting a lot of personal accountability. I'm also I'm feeling like everyone in this room, there's an accountability to each other too. I feel like the way that we've even shown up here, y'all are really showing up with accountability, so shout out to y'all. I'm doing my best, and all of y'all, right? And collectively, we are holding ourselves accountable in this moment. So just shout out to that.
And I think on that too, I think also, the thing I say to folks sometimes, especially Black people, folks who've been disengaged from politics, I think it can be easy to catastrophize and to fall into despair, of course, right? We are seeing untold, insane things happening in our country, in our neighborhoods, but you could have been anywhere else today. You could have been at the farmer's market, you could have been at home on the couch, but you decided to show up and to be engaged. And you're already, unfortunately, taking a step that many people don't. And I think we sometimes are too hard on ourselves as people engaged in politics, or I'm am I doing enough? Am I engaged enough? Am I doing enough to stop all the bad things that are happening? And you can't, no one of us can put all of that burden on ourselves, because it's impossible, right? I can't save the world by myself, Jordan can't, none of us can, right? We are all in this together, and so I think we also deserve to share that burden together as well. And so I think sometimes giving yourself a little grace, like you said, you showed up to this important conversation, that's a great thing, because you could have been anywhere else, but you took your time to be here, and that deserves to be celebrated.
Thank you. Yeah, just shout out to the 9-to-5ers. I just want to name, most of y'all are working 9 to 5, so any extra energy that comes out to just show up and do something means a lot, all right? So I'm at 2:17. I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then let me just ask for a show of hands. Do the people in here have any questions for these folks? Or did I ask them all? Do y'all have any questions? Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna ask 2 more questions and we gonna start asking questions. All right, cool. All right, so this one is like actionable, yeah? Because a lot of you all are very busy. Y'all gonna, as soon as you get out of here, you gotta do something else. But there is a bit of call to action, right? There is something that can be done, or perhaps there's something that we can share out to other people, right? This is also live streamed. So for those in Cambodia, listen carefully. What is one thing everyone in this room can do in the next 30 days to become more engaged?
I mean, vote on May 19th. Definitely get engaged. But I think, this conversation, I think taking a lot of what we discussed here, and I think, right, like, as we've said, right, like, your local representation is transparent and wants to be held accountable in a way where we are also empowering you. So I think, not just leaving it at the conversation, but then what does it mean to take this relationship and this conversation and to then use that to spring into action?
Yeah, anybody else want to offer anything with that?
Yeah, real simple. And this is a really good website to use. I will go to 70.org before you leave. Go to 70.org and query down to where it says find your elected official. Put your address in there of where you're registered to vote. And it's going to come up every elected official that represents you, from all of your council members to your state reps to your state senators to your members of Congress. That is literally the fastest and easiest way to become more engaged, is become more educated on who represents you. So 70.org is the website for the Committee of 70. They have a tool in there where you can put your address in and you can find out every person at the state, local, and federal level that represents you. Once you find that out, find out if they have social media platforms. And if they have social media platforms, you should be following all of those folks on your social media platforms that you found out now represent you. So I'll say it again, because I see some people look on their phones. 70.org is the Committee of 70's website. There'll be a tab there that says find your elected official. You click on the tab to find your elected official. Put your address in. It's going to tell you, it's going to have a tab that says city, state, federal, and then we'll query everybody that represents you. Your council person, the mayor, the council members at large. It'll show you your state rep, your state senator, the governor. It'll show you all of the row officers, and then it'll show you your member of Congress, your member of the U.S. House, the 2 U.S. senators, and you can follow all of those people on social media, and within 30 minutes, you're now plugged in and connected to everybody that represents you throughout the whole government.
I am. I follow them all. I do.
And as a non-shameless plug, if you all would take a chance to go to YIP's website, Young Involved Philadelphia, it is yiphilly.org. Again, that's yiphilly.org. You can become a member for free of Young Involved Philadelphia. And when you're also there, please check out my latest research report that compares Philadelphians ages 18 to 34 to other comparable cities in the city of Philadelphia, so you can see what young people are doing, how young people are faring, and what we can do to improve that ecosystem.
3 words: vote, engage, and organize. And you asked us what we can do in 30 days. May 19th is a primary. There's muscle memory with voting. You get yourself into practice again, get your neighbors in practice again, talk to somebody you haven't talked to before, get them to vote. Engage with your electeds, figure out who they are, start realizing what the issues are, and then start organizing others again. It's vote, engage, organize, over and over again.
And if you have never reached out to your local representatives, you get their email and then you email them. That's it. And then if they don't answer, I learned you email them again.
No, that's true. And I did say reach out, but I want to also give people grace. No, seriously, respectfully, I get like 300-400 emails a day, if not more. On the appropriations chair, I get, especially right now, we're about to get the budget done, so like my emails popping.
You know what I mean? And so, you gotta sometimes email more than once, and that's, I may have missed it, Rick may have missed it. Sometimes I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning if I can't sleep, and I'm checking email, so I might email you back at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But seriously, if they don't email you the first time, send them another email, pick up the phone, call the office. Now, if you didn't email 4 or 5 times, you can call the office twice and ain't nobody responds. Well, that's a different story. But, that's when you pull up to the office. That's a different story. Because I want everybody to engage, but I don't want to set unrealistic expectations that if you email one time, that, because emails, just like you email anybody else and it might get lost, we get a ton of emails. So, email, send might call in the office, say, hey, tell my rep I sent the email, this is my email address, and then folks will respond. All of us also have offices. Rue has an office in City Hall.
592, come on by.
We both have offices. His office is right next door. My office, I have two. I have one in South Philly, I have one in Southwest, and then we both have offices in the state capitol as well.
Thank you. I feel like I'm a student.
Oh.
You feel me? Like, y'all need to join the AP class over here.
We're getting straight A's. All right, so I'm asking one more question, and then we're going to go on to the audience to ask questions. So what would it look like if the people in this room actually worked together after today?
Who's in the room?
Y'all need to answer that question. That's your question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anybody want to answer? You want to answer?
Oh, okay. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Snuggles. Okay, yeah, so I'm Eve. I'm originally from the beautiful island of Haiti, Haiti. I actually met you almost 10 years ago because I've been in Philly for 10 years. You were meeting with, I know, season, baby, season. Season. Me too! Yes. Me too. Don't worry, we're the same. El mismo. C'est la même chose. But I met you when I was working at the Food Trust as a nutrition, as a healthcare systems policy researcher, and we were working to get Commissioner Hyde or something like that to pass a bill to give more water in public schools because students were dehydrating in schools and everything like that. And I'm like, first world country, right? But I met you because you were meeting with Stan. And then I joined the Mayor's Commission of African and Caribbean Affairs as a member, but now I'm an actual commissioner. So glad to see you still rocking. 10 years later, what am I doing? I'm literally working in a federal health government and everything like that. Thank you, darling. I'm trying the ghetto. Basically trying to help save Medicare right now, which is 3% of this country's GDP. So. Through my business, and I have another business, a Pan-African business that takes Afro folks to Afro countries because we want to circulate the black dollar. Let's make Tulsa, Seneca Village, Alabama, the Gullah Geechees in the Carolinas and stuff like that. Let's make it global. So it's Deeper to Travel been around for 15 years, and of course, like I said, I'm in the commission and been supporting Africa Town and everything like that. So one of the biggest things that I want to focus on is how I want to organize is figuring out how to have more depth and breadth in everything that we're doing. So I was actually going to come talk to both of you after and be like, what support do you all need to add more depth to Africa Town and everything like that to continue to be able to really centralize, the voting, the engaging, and the organizing and everything like that through my resources and my support and my expertise. So that's something that I'm interested in doing after this is figuring out what gaps you all have with Africa Town and how I can support so we can add some more depth. And then, copy and paste across other cities, right? Because I think once we have a model that works, then the goal is just communicating that, finding that narrative, and then circulating around to other people so they can do the same. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So before I open up to all the questions from the audience, I'm also going to share how it's going to work. But this last question, I put this one here because of a lot of things that are happening in the world and also in the organizing space. No shade to the men that are here on the panel. But I find oftentimes in the organizing space, there's a lot of women in this space, and I think as we all know, mothers and women often carry a large burden. Again, no shade to the men here. Equality and equity. But it's been a bit alarming, and I also care about us coming together. And so the goal of this question is not about us creating more distance between our genders, right? It's about us coming together to better understand. So this last question is for all of our panelists, whoever wants to answer. Women are harmed and dying at a fast rate. What can residents do to better protect the women in their lives?
That's a great question. The disparities in women's health are getting worse. We are especially under this federal administration, we in City Council have been talking about it consistently, talking about reproductive health, maternal health, the disparities of how Black women in particular are affected in a disproportionately negative way. Brown women next. It's a crisis, and just like we did in the COVID pandemic, we have to lift these things up and call it the crisis that it is, right? We've got a domestic violence crisis in Philadelphia. We are finally starting to put resources towards there in a concerted way that we should have been doing years ago. Is absolutely, once we need to value it, all of us, to the level it needs to be, and all of us organize around these issues. We have seen that if there is a will, there is a way. If we want to, in America, fund something, make it a top priority, we can do it, and that is exactly what we need to do here.
Two thoughts that came to mind. One is, I think, men have a responsibility to show up for causes that matter to women. So, for example, in the State House, there's a Black Maternal Caucus that has been moving some really exciting reproductive justice bills. They've actually called it the Momnibus, is their name for it. And so, right, and it's important for me to show up for that space, right, as someone who needs to understand those issues because I have to show up to address patriarchy, to show up the disparities around health access, around housing access. And I think that leads to the second point, which is I think we have a responsibility to also understand the ways in which women, and particularly Black women, are the most hurt by our shortcomings in society, right? When we talk about housing, right? The number one victim of evictions are Black women and Black mothers. Those are the people that are being evicted at the highest rates in our city due to our issues around lack of affordable housing. When it comes to our carceral system, who gets left behind when all the Black men in our communities are surveilled and incarcerated? Black women, right? They're the ones who take up the brunt of care and supporting the household. And so I think we have to have a responsibility to have that analysis around when we talk about these issues and we talk about changing these societal problems. We have to understand that oftentimes the most impacted identity is Black women, right? And so we have to start there. If we're going to be talking about freeing our communities, it starts with the most impacted people.
So what I'll say is I'm a Black man who's born of a Black woman, born of a Black grandmother. I have a Black great grandmother. Everybody that I know, they've been Black. My mama, my grandma. So I feel like it's my responsibility to show for Black women. I'm a mama's boy, and I say it proud. I show up for my mother for any and everything that she needs me to show up for. And I'm proud, quite honestly, of the work that we've done in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to show up for Black women. Representative Krajewski talked about the work that Representatives Cephas, Mays, and Curry are doing with Black maternal health. Well, in the last two budgets, there have been money in the state budget for Black maternal health. One of the first times we actually seen resources of that nature. We did 2 years ago. We did $7.5 million that was federalized to represent about $15 million to go out to healthcare systems so that they can update their equipment, update the programming and what they're doing around Black maternal health. We have passed several bills on the Momnibus out of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to help Black moms
Just this week, Representative Bridget Krajewski introduced a bill that I'm going to be working on with her around requiring insurance companies to fund fertility treatment for women after they have been diagnosed with cancer. Many women have to make a decision once they're diagnosed with cancer quickly on if their insurance covers it, they're lucky to be able to freeze their eggs. If not, they got to find $10,000, $20,000 to freeze their eggs because a lot of cancer treatment makes women infertile after the fact. I'm doing some work personally around colon cancer. My wife was 36 years old when she died of colorectal cancer, and colorectal cancer is infecting young black women at an astronomical rate. And so we're doing a lot of work with the healthcare insurance companies around requiring them to screen earlier for diseases like that. I mean, we have the tools to do it. It's all about, insurance wanting to cover it. And so, I take pride in the work that we can do to show up for our sisters. The other thing I think we can do is listen to our sisters more. I mean, I love it when Representative Mays, Curry, and Cephas, do their work. They come and tell me, we need this in the budget. I'm like, okay, but that's one of the things I tell you. Case in point, Darisha Parker. Representative Parker, a couple years ago, kept walking around the Capitol with pads and tampons, talking about young girls not having feminine hygiene products in school, and why we should pay for those things and give them out for free. It was Tampon Tuesday, Flow Friday, and I said to her, Darisha, we will put the money in the budget if you just stop talking to me about tampons. Just please stop talking to me about tampons. And we did. She still talks about it. If she knows, if she wants to if she wants me to squeam, that's what she starts talking about. I'm like, please stop. But right now in schools all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, young girls don't have to stay home every month because we're giving away feminine hygiene products in all of our schools across Pennsylvania because we put money in the budget. And so that's for us. That I'll be honest with you. I didn't know girls were staying home. Like I didn't know that. But that's what happens for me when we listen and let sisters tell us what they need. So we can do all of these other things, but a big part of that for us, for me, I believe as a black man is just tell me. Letting our sisters lead, organize, do what they need, and then us being the support to them. I'm trying to tell you, it is an honor when I work in Harrisburg with my sister Joanna McClinton, who's our speaker, and then I get to see all of my other sisters who are standing up and doing their thing, and we get to play support roles for them. For me, that's how we stand up for black women. That's how we do our thing is by being their support. Because for me, we are still all in this together.
And if I could just really quickly, I think the through line here, is for men anyway, is the accountability factor, and it's also the support, right? We have, our council member here, when she first got into office, right, stood up against the folks who are doing predatory tax stuff, right, in the city of Philadelphia, like robbing folks blind. We know the education level in the city of Philadelphia, is low, right? Things like that. Look at our mayor. Our mayor is the first black woman mayor. 199 mayors before her, and she's the first woman. Right, and think about all the problems that she has to go walk throughout the course of a day, as not just as a city leader, as a municipal CEO, but as a black woman. You know what I mean? Think about one of my rock stars, State Rep Harris. You just mentioned her, Speaker McClinton. Trying to handle all the stuff that she has to handle in Pennsylvania. But it's the nurses, it's the teachers. A lot of the work that are done by nonprofits are led by women. Right, I'm a man in a double nonprofit space, right? My day job and YIP, and it's like I'm surrounded by women all day, so I have to sometimes check myself, right? Because it's like, we need to make sure that they're accounted for, that their point is getting across, and we're listening. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so please make sure you're using it and support your women in their efforts.
Okay, so now it's time for our audience questions. I have a fun little way we're gonna do it. All right. So do you all have questions specifically for individuals here on the panel? Who's got a question for Rue Landau? Who's got a question for Jordan Harris? Who's got a question for Rishaun? I know, I'm sorry. Yes. All right, if you have a question, everybody turn around. So here's the thing. I know our electeds and everybody up here loves to talk, but I mean that respectfully, as in y'all talk well. Y'all say a lot of amazing things. And so I just had to do this. So for our live stream, guys, so if you have a question for Rue, and also this is about getting to know the folks as well, right? Because when we leave this room, we may not have all of us in this room again. And I want to say it wasn't easy for me to get everybody in the room. Okay, so I want to make the most of this room. So we've got a little bit of time to answer some questions of our folks, to get to know folks. So Alan, do you have a question for somebody here?
Yes, for Councilmember Landau.
Hold your.
Oh, shit.
All right, ask your question.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask a question, but I couldn't, miss this opportunity. My question for Councilmember Landau, who I know for a while, is, you and Councilmember Brooks led some recent legislation, the ICE Out package, which was very successful. And, the question came up earlier today about, African Americans and immigrants and sort of how do we work together. You were one of the ones leading this legislation, but you're, as far as I understand, not immigrant yourself. Sort of like why was it important for you to sort of lead that legislation?
Well, not a first, second generation immigrant, but study.
Right, exactly.
Right.
My grandfather came here as a baby. This is, it kind of just goes back to the last question we just asked. It's like we all have to show up for, everybody's issue is all of our issues. It absolutely is. And immigrants' issues should be the same issues for folks who've been here forever, just the same as, done a lot of reentry work, standing up for mostly Black communities in the reentry world, and I don't know, LGBT, you just show up for everybody. I think we also, so many of us have chosen our life's work that follows the path of our values. And so my work, whether it was being a legal aid lawyer or civil rights work at the Commission on Human Relations, I've gotten to know so many of the communities so deeply, including you, Alan, who I've known for so many years. You can't work side by side with people on other issues and not say, I'm standing up for you on your issues. So it was an easy no-brainer, but what I said earlier today was that there's these bills were led by immigrant communities. We were just kind of the vehicle for them to get onto the city council floor. And it is incredibly important that everybody continues to engage with us and educate us and bring issues to us, because this is exactly how it happens.
Thank you.
And thank you for all of the incredible work that you have always done for all immigrant communities, but especially African and Caribbean.
Thank you.
My dear has a question for.
There you go.
So, as much as I love being a mother, when I decided things weren't working with me and their dad, I went to see a lawyer, and she was like, listen, child care, custody, and visitation is 3 separate cases. And if you want to give me your children college education money, because that usually lasts 18 years, or you can go home and talk to their father about what you want to do with your children. And I valued that information because I was able to go home, talk to their dad, and work things out, how we would support our children. So while we are single mothers, while we are women, What role did your father play in your life? And how can we support black men as fathers and help them know their rights? Because my son would not be the man he is if his father was not in his life, or if I did not recognize I couldn't raise a man without men in his life.
Well, damn. Okay, Ayala. Fixing my life. No, seriously. I appreciate that question, though. So I grew up in my household with my mother. Interesting enough, I grew up in my household with my mother. My grandmother, my mother's mother, lived directly across the street. So I was very blessed to have my mother and my grandmother in my life. My whole life until my grandmother passed away. But my father was involved and engaged. He wasn't in the household, but I knew where my father was. I could call my father. Actually, it's funny because I don't know. Well, I'm gonna just say it. You know, whenever I get in trouble, you know, it was actually my father that. My father had to beat me one good time, and that was just like it. My mom like, I'm gonna call your dad, and I'm like, okay, I'm all right. You know what I mean? And honestly, now I consider my father one of my best friends. We legitimately have a great relationship. Now that took some work on my behalf and his behalf. What I recognize is that when my father had me, he was 24 years old, and his father wasn't there. And he did not know at 24 what being a father looked like and should be. And that as he grew as a man himself, he grew as a father. And as an adult, as a man myself, looking at my own faults, although I don't have children, but looking at my own life's faults, I had to realize and, one, forgive my father for his faults, but also understand how terribly hard it must have been to try to navigate manhood on his own. And now my father is, like I said, one of my best friends. He's a great grandfather to my nephew. What I now look to do is how do we strengthen the mentorship that I think is necessary to support men, but in this area, black men, when they want to be good fathers, and what that looks like when the opportunity for you and the mother may not have worked out. That does not mean that he cannot be a great father. And so I know that there's programs and things out there that work on how to help father. Literally, maybe 3 weeks ago, I had lunch with Brian Dawkins, former Philadelphia Eagles Brian Dawkins, because he's working with Tony Dungy. And they have a program called All Pro Dads, where they're doing this national thing about fatherhood and particularly black men. There's a program, actually is a program in our prison system that we work with called the FACT program, where they're actually taking fathers who are incarcerated, working on the relationship between the father and the child, working on the relationship between the mother and the father, so that when the father comes home, the father has already been engaged and in contact and involved in their child's life. Because the statistics tell us that those fathers are more likely to stay home when they have that relationship. And so I think it's important, one, for us to support those kind of programs that support fatherhood and what it means to be a father. And we have to not be ashamed to have realistic conversations about the fact that, I mean, if you're a parent in this room, you know, if you didn't have the best example for yourself on what it looks like to be a good father, be a good mother, you may have struggled, and that is okay. There's no manual on how to do these things, but what we can do is learn from the experiences of others, and your government, in my opinion, should be involved in supporting those things. Because what we know is that young men who have fathers are less likely to be in prison and incarcerated. They're more likely to graduate high school and obtain some type of higher education. They are more likely to become high earners financially. And so it makes sense for us from a financial perspective to want to make sure that those relationships are good. So I am grateful to where I've come with my father I said, he is literally one of my closest friends. And when I'm in a jam, I smile now because I know that I don't know it all as a black man. And I am blessed to have a village of black men around me who I can pick up the phone and say, I'm struggling in this area. You know, how did you get through this? What do you think? You know, I wouldn't, the worst thing that ever happened to me was when my wife passed away. I felt totally lost and I didn't know what I was going to do. If it hadn't been for my father and some of my brothers and my friends, Ryan's on my staff, but he's one of my close friends, those brothers who wrapped their arms around me and helped me through this process, I would not be where I am today. And so we should be celebrating those friendships, those relationships, and supporting the programs that do those things.
And you didn't ask me this question, but like hearing this man speak, like, you know, it compelled me to answer it because, you know, I never knew my father, right? And again, like, folks, you know, may see, like, you know, my academic record, like things I do for work and how I covered so much ground so young. It's like, oh, he must have grew up in a 2-parent household. That was not my reality. In fact, the first time I had a conversation with my birth father was in 2022, and he was like, man, I never wanted you here. You know, so it's like, I am here completely on accident, but I serve a purpose, right? And, you know, I think, you know, when you think about that, if it wasn't for, similar to like State Rep Harris, what folks don't know is that his uncle used to do my mother's hair for 35 years, and used to give me clothes when I was going to school. It was my Uncle Ben, right? My Caribbean Uncle Ben, who taught me how to like use my hands, learn a trade. It's my Uncle Melvin who used to teach me like, yo, you gotta tuck your shirt in when you go into school. This is how you brush your hair, right? Stop looking sloppy, right? You're a man, you know, and tough on you. But at the end of the day, similar to State Rep Harris, like, I had a village of men when my father wanted to just do what he wanted to do and was not absent. And to this day, like, I may post something on social media that gets a lot of attention, and I may see something in interaction, but I understand at the end of the day, I have a purpose in this city, right? So I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy that I can be a beacon for other young men who didn't have a father, right? And, you know, and there was every statistic. When I was in undergrad, there was something that we studied in criminal justice that said if you were the ages between 16 and 25, low socioeconomic background, African American, and male, 7 times out of 10, you would end up in prison. And I don't know about any of y'all, if y'all familiar with the zip code 19133, for decades, that was the lowest educational attainment zip code of the city of Philadelphia, and that's where I lived for 15 years, and I have not only 1 degree, but 2. You know, so when you think about young people, young black men, sometimes they put their head down in school, sometimes they do this and that, and they're like, oh, they're a problem. You don't know what they carry in their emotional backpack every day. And like, similar to these men and women on this stage, like, I am not perfect, but I try to be better every day because I know I'm somebody's father, I'm gonna be somebody's father, and I gotta show up for others.
All right, Rishaun. Rishaun hosted the event. We have a question for everybody. Right here.
Hi.
Everybody.
First, I want to say you're not here by accident. That was all God's plan. My name is Monique Curry-Mims. I am the owner and publisher of Generosity. Earlier, there was a statement around, like, you know who your elected official is and go to the right person. My question is, how do we pull all of those pieces together? We talked about, the feminine hygiene products and put them in schools, but the kids weren't able to go to the bathroom, right? And we talked about PPA, but then the state increased the threshold before the money can actually go to the district. So, like, if we're not connecting all of those pieces and having these conversations together, how do we actually move forward? So my question is, how can we do that? How can we actually bring all of the levels of government and community together to actually move our region and state forward? No pressure.
Well, I think this is a great question. I think this goes back to one of the points that Rue said, which is to organize, right? I think sometimes folks can kind of get into sort of the individual advocate mindset, but what we need is organization, right? Because you need organization so that you can have someone who's setting up the meetings with the electeds to talk about the platform, You need someone who's doing the policy research about the campaign. You need someone who's going to show up to city council, right, and give them hell during public comment. And you can't do that. One person can't do all those things. You actually have to have an organizational structure where you're coming together, you're planning strategically, you're doing analysis, and you're thinking about how to move a platform forward, which is the second thing I would say, right, is we have to have a platform. Because to your point, none of these issues operates in a silo. And I actually kind of learned this firsthand, where my entry point into politics was actually around education access, because I went to engineering school, I worked as a software engineer. My interest in politics was around STEM access, because I was like, why did I have to go to Penn to learn about robotics? Why couldn't my local school teach me about robotics? What's up with that? What's up with why do my black neighbors in West Philly not know about software engineering as a field? And then as I got more and more involved in that, I realized that, one, teaching at one school was great, but what about all the other schools? And then you realize, well, if I'm going to address education, you also got to address poverty. You got to address food insecurity. You got to address, criminal justice, healthcare access, all these things. And so you can't just work on any one issue, right? Like, you have to have a platform and a vision for change in our communities. And I think that's the second piece too, right? You have to have organization, and you have to have that platform that organization can develop and then move forward and advocate for it. So that's what I was saying.
Next question.
Can I just jump into this one real quick? I think this is a great question, and I am a new council person. This is my third budget cycle, and each time I go through it, I am learning more and more. And some of what I'm learning is what's not there. Some of what I'm learning is what is intentionally hidden. And I think what I've seen from, there's people's budget projects, and there's folks who have dismantled our budget and figured this all out, is that what we don't have right now is the budget that says, oh, here are the things we want to fund. Not that we have to fund. Here are the things we want to fund, and here is how we get there. Because what happens is, all of a sudden, the federal government cuts SNAP benefits, and we quickly fund more food pantries on the ground. Well, that's not eradicating hunger. That's not eradicating poverty. That is not making communities powerful. That's just feeding people. Extremely important, but it doesn't get us to the end goal. And there are not enough spaces where we're talking about what the goal is and how to build to it, versus quickly just putting out fires all the time. And that is what we need to do, and that's what we need to organize around, and that's what we need to be. And there are multiple levels here that include determining where we want to go and how to get there, and then really getting to know your electeds, like who they are, what they care about, and also what will flip them and change them. I think we're all pretty transparent up here, but there's not all of our colleagues who get up here and explain who they are, why they do certain things. That's something I forgot to answer to Alan too, is like, I have throughout my career been a very outspoken white person, saying that white people have to use their privilege to be anti-racist and to dismantle the levels of privilege and white supremacy that exist. Absolutely. So many of my colleagues would not say that and talk like that, and that is just an important thing to know about me, and also an important thing to know about them. But we do have to build to the thing. We got to get the things we want, we got to build towards them, and the things that we want have to be taking away from the handouts and the stuff that we're doing, because that's not solving the problem. And I appreciate the question so much.
And I think, at least from the policy perspective, is the thing that I can speak to. It pains me to say this, right? But some of these things take time, And council member, you worked on Tango Title, right, in your private career, and as a council person. That took 15 years. To really, and if folks don't know what Tango Title is, essentially, like, if you have a home and your mom or your grandmom or your auntie pass it down to you without a will or whatever, you cannot sell the home. You cannot get home equity. You're stuck, right? Without, and it was about, at the time of when that thing became such a big thing a couple of years ago, it was estimated that it was $1.1 billion of Philadelphia dead capital in our housing market. right? So now through this work 15-year span, Philadelphia has now become a national model on how we solve tangled title, right? So again, I'm not saying that, everything is gonna get solved tomorrow, right? But it takes time. And I know a lot of people don't like to play the long game, but when you move with a coordinated voice, things happen. But you have to continue. It's not gonna happen next week. Sometimes you don't wanna take that meeting. You think I wanna sit, sometimes I work from 7 a.m. to 11:30 and I don't even eat, right? Sometimes, right? But it's like, I have to do these things because nobody else, on my mind really, if not me, then who? And that's how I operate. It may be somebody doing it, but damn it, if I don't see it, it ain't happening, right? So listen, you gotta just play the long game.
So real quick, and 60 seconds. I agree with everything. I think it's not an either or. I think it has to be a both.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean by that. I agree with Rue that we have to have a long range plan.
Yes.
But I also got to feed people that's hungry today.
That's true.
And so when I look at our budget, right, I understand that there is somewhere that I want to go, but I understand that I can't get there if all of the people perish in the process. And so I think that a part of what Rick is saying when we talk about organizing, communities, in my mind, to your point, come together, and there's just like a big corporation would say, where do we want to see our company going in 5 to 10 years? But they also have a 12-month plan. I think communities can do the same thing. I think neighborhoods can do the same thing. Where you can want, the dream could be having a brand new rec center, but in the meantime, let's fix up this park as well, because this is helpful for our children today, but understanding in the next 5 years, we're trying to grow so that we can build this new rec center as well. And so I think communities coming, and here's the other thing, be very specific. A lot of times. Sometimes people be like, what we want? We want to end homelessness. And that is an aspirational goal, right? But if a person just has an aspirational goal and doesn't have steps on how we're going to get there, we're just talking. We have to say, we want to do this. Because I remember in our country, we used to have presidents who had declarations. We're going to put a man on the moon. We're going to cure this. We're going to do this. And what happened when they did that is we used all of our resources to look to get to that point, right? Listen, when we had an HIV/AIDS epidemic in this nation, all of our research dollars and whatnot started to point towards finding a cure. Now, we didn't find a cure, but there are tons of folks in our community who 30 years ago would have been dying with HIV and AIDS, but now with the medication that they have, folks are living longer because there was a declaration that this is what we're going to do. So I think you have to do both. You have to be aspirational and inspirational in where we want to go as a community, and also put together a roadmap that includes what are we doing in the meantime until we get to our end goal.
This gentleman, I wanted to.
Is it on?
Yes, sir.
So I'm here because I'm at a point now where I've looked at politics, and every area that I look at, eventually it boils up to our representatives, and then it boils up to the fact that they're not looking out for us. And I see the big problem, and it bubbles up to the whole notion that you have this group of people who are the super rich, and then you have everybody else. And it seems like the laws and the things that are being passed are more likely to benefit them instead of us. And a lot of that has to do with income inequality and so on. And so they have the money that they can spend on all these things and get this done. So I'm thinking that far up, but I also now realize that I need to act more locally. And the question is, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on locally, and where, obviously I don't have unlimited time. So who to connect to where I can act locally, thinking more on a global stage?
I think it's a great question. I think we are, really lucky in Philadelphia to have a vibrant organizing scene. I mean, I would look to the organizations that won Ice Out and Safe Healthy Homes, right? Right? So there's an organization right here in the house you can join. Right? Like those were coalitions that brought a issue and a problem to their local elected officials and then launched a campaign with them to win. And so I agree. We shouldn't just want to duplicate work or duplicate ideas. We should find organizations that are aligned with you and think about what does it mean to get plugged in and be part of their campaigns. Committee person was also mentioned, right? Like there are actually hyper local elected officials that are right in your neighborhood that can be your first stop in terms of holding your local electeds accountable to representing you. They're actually up for election in a week and a half. And these are just to explain what this is to folks who may not know. So Philadelphia is divided up into 67 wards. Each ward has anywhere from 20 to 30 divisions. Those divisions have 2 committee people. So those committee people are basically kind of your local elections captain. So every election, their responsibility is to keep you informed about who's on the ballot, what's coming up, what do they stand for. They can make recommendations. They can also take feedback from you about what kind of candidates should be supported in your division. They also can do more than that, right? They can make sure if you have any issues in your division that they take them to your local state rep or to your council person, right? They can be a voice for you. And so finding those opportunities, whether it's your local committee person, whether it's coming into your office or your state rep, whether it's joining organization, I think there's actually plenty of opportunities to get plugged in, but it's about, using the fact that you're in a room of people who care about the same thing that you just talked about and finding out where you can plug in.
So the other thing is where we at? This Baltimore Avenue. There's a rec center a couple blocks over that has an advisory council that needs folks to be involved. With Johnson Rec Center is not too far from here. On 48th and Woodland. You got all of these neighborhood schools that either have friends of or need friends of. I think a lot of times when we think about investment and involvement, we think everybody got to run for office. No, there's tons of local, hyper-local organizations that are either existing or need to be that help support the infrastructure in the community. For example, about 10 years ago, I think there was a strong movement to build more friends of groups for a lot of our local schools. And it was born out of some folks in communities saying, look, I don't have a kid yet, but my kid is going to go to that school. And I want to make sure that school is good for my kid when it's time for my kid to go there. I have one, at the time it was called Friends of Chester Arthur. Ivy Olish and Matt Olish were one of the folks that spearheaded that. And they changed the name to Marion Anderson Neighborhood Academy, but they were able to raise money to redo the playground that the school was on, to literally build somewhat of a mini park in that neighborhood. E.M. Stanton has an amazing Friends of group. Yeah. Child's Playground has an amazing, Child's Elementary School has an amazing Friends of group. So much so that we put a new playground on the roof of the school, and it came from the Friends of group that started to do the work to organize around that. And so they didn't just organize for the school, but through the school and organizing for the school, all of those folks begin to become very much politically active in their community and in their neighborhood. And so I think, first, I appreciate your desire to want to be engaged and involved and looking at the world around and seeing what I can do. But I know sometimes there's a frustration, but I want you to understand, like, there are hyper local things that you can get involved in right here that you can honestly see success tomorrow. That's right. If there is organization around it. A lot of our institutions, they just need somebody to care about them help do, because let me tell you, and I'll move on. It is hard for me when it comes from the financial aspect. Like, I can't just give a grant to nothing. Like, you might see a dilapidated playground and say, why isn't that playground fixed? You know, well, unless there's a person who's working with the Department of Rec or an organization who has a plan.
Yeah.
When you have a plan, you've done a little bit of the legwork and said, hey, for $250,000 investment, we can do this, and this in this playground. Well, when that now comes to me, it's like, okay, we can do this. We can find the resources to do this. And for us, you know, and Rick is one of my members, he comes to me and says, hey, they want to do this in my neighborhood. Here are the things that they have done. This is the proposal that they're putting together. Can we find resources to do it? Yeah. And that's where my office goes, and we find the resources to make those things happen. But at the hyper-local level, it's everyday folks like yourself who are putting those things together, presenting them to your state rep, who then comes to somebody like me and says, hey, I want to see this happen in my neighborhood. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And I think just to sum it up really quickly, like the through line is leverage, right? You know, you have to have some sort of leverage. I remember when the former council president, Daryl Clark, for city council, you know, I was so excited. He was in my neighborhood in the 5th district. It's where he used to represent. And I'm saying, oh, council president, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, I'm also a committee person. He said, well, why didn't you start with that? And I was like, I don't know, right? You know, but again, like things like that, volunteering at your local business improvement district, contacting organizations like PACDC, right, who are trying to get small businesses activated in your community every day. You, like, to the rep's point, right, you can do something tomorrow. It's just, what do you want to do, Googling where you want to do it at, and then put the boots on the ground.
I just came from a block captain boot camp this morning. We always looking for block captains.
All right, it's lit and we're over time. And I ain't have to talk much. But I want to do some thank yous. I want to wrap this up. I also want to make sure that after we're done, we're going to have some music playing and some vibes intentionally so that you all can network and make sure you do your introduction, you know, do your handshake. Do your, hey, what's up, I'm going to hit you up. I'm going to send you an email and connect. I also want to acknowledge that everyone in this room is a very valuable person to connect with. I'm not going to use the word networking because that's a bit superficial. So I'm really looking for connecting. Feel like you really connected with somebody, take this connection out. I also want to say thank you to Generosity for being our media partner. Hey, Monique. I also want to say thank you to DJ Lex. I'm trying to DJ Lex. Who's going to be putting our Ibiza Day party vibes to encourage your networking. I shouldn't have said that. You're connecting. And then I'm going to also close this out too. We have I remember I told you there's a survey. And so there's a QR code up there. All you have to do is just go to bdbcservices.com, fill out the survey. We're going to be doing these fireside chats again. I'm really curious on what it would take to get 2 or 3 of your friends in the room. That's what I strategically want to know. How do we get 2, 3, 4 of our friends in the room that are kind of maybe a little disengaged, but they're powerful people, and they know that they're powerful. I want to say every human is powerful, but not everyone knows that they're powerful. That's right. But those who do know that they're powerful, I think it'd be easier to get them in the room. Yes. Right? And I want to leave it out with Ephraim, co-owner of Dahlak, who was just so gracious for allowing us to be in this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful space. And Ephraim is a person who's a friend of mine. I was able to bring him into a lobby training, and we lobbied and participated to get the power. And Ephraim is also a business owner. This is his business. He was just in here at 2:30 a.m. last night, closing it out. But I just want him to say a few words as we close this out. And again, the event is, we're done. It's now time to jam, get some music, you know, eat some food, have another beverage. So again, I'm just saying thank you to everyone that was here. My intent is to continue to do these. I cannot do this work alone. I am not looking to be burnt out. I am looking to continue to thrive and be beautiful. Yes. Okay? And I need more of us to be in this room doing this work. Right? I don't think we need to be in a space of frustration when we have all of this power in this room. I'm extremely inspired. Like my fears,
I did this because I didn't want to be afraid to be in a room with our elected officials. I myself wanted to get over that hump, and I wanted to kind of humanize you all myself, because I do follow y'all on social media. I be up in there, and sometimes, yeah, people cannot feel that human, and it can feel like these solutions are so complicated. But when we're in the room and we hear you all talking, it's like we speak the same language. Like, we're literally on the same team. We just participate, we got the power, we solve the problems. It's really not rocket science. And I will also say the work that I did with the Ice Out, it definitely showed me that strategic organizing with people, learning how to trust, even if people are afraid, will actually get you results. And this moment was prompted by that, because I know all of you in this room are doing amazing, phenomenal things, but I also know that you all are tired. And I want you all to be healthy so that we can enjoy our futures together. Okay? So that's all I have. Ephraim, just say a couple words, and it's over. The music's about to get popping. All right.
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank all of you guys for coming out here. We've always wanted this space to be a space where all kinds of voices and talent and music can flow through here. We firmly believe that if we consider that we have a lot more things in common than we do different, we can get far ahead. And hosting these kind of sessions here allows for that to happen. We also have a beer garden pop-up not too far from here on 51st and Pentridge. We've had rallies and fundraisers done there. Rick knows, my neighbor, he's been there. You guys are all welcome to come by there as well. Tsehaitu, thank you. Thank you so much. For sure. I hope I see you all again, and I'll be honored to host more sessions like this as well. We love to hear from our representatives, our people here. For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.